guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I've come on to do the back of my journal. So if I just reach over, this was the journal cover that I created yesterday, and this is for my hashtag A to Z Zartjournal2020. So I explained obviously in the video yesterday, the idea is I'm going to create a whole journal using prompts that you guys suggest for me, starting with the first letter of the alphabet A, and we'll work our way through the alphabet. So I've already had some really fantastic suggestions for the letter A. So thank you very much for those of you that have watched and have done a put me a suggestion in the comments box. You can continue to do that either on the previous video or on this video. That's absolutely fine. And then I will somehow choose a prompt and I will create the first page to go in my art journal. But obviously this is just the front cover and my journal needs a back cover. So I have done, if you saw the other video, you'll have seen that I painted the edges in the Imagination Crafts Starlights paint in, it's covered in gesso, Sax Blue. I painted that so that you've got that lovely shimmer on the edges there. It's very subtle because it's only on the edges, but I really like that. And then I did incorporate some of it into the front cover on the other one. I've already put the jelly print on here, just to save a little bit of time. I was going to put the back paper on, but then I thought if I'm stamping and using paints and things, I could end up muckying the back cover, so I've decided to do that last of all. And as you might just have noticed on this one, I have added a couple of punched circles. So I just punched out those little circles with the die that I've got, and then I've just punched holes in them. I punched it out of the jelly paper print, the scraps from the front page, and then I just stamped some of the little hexagons in the nautical blue on that. So I'll do something similar for the back cover. So it's where to start, isn't it? So I've gathered a few things around me. I'm going to do some similar things to what I did for the front cover, because obviously I want everything to match and coordinate. And I had chosen this image to go on the back there, which I really like. And I've also got the stamp set that I used obviously for the front cover, which has got various stamps. This is the one from the Indigo Blue magazine, and I really like this one with the wings. I thought that went quite well with this one because she's obviously flying in that one. So again, I think I'm going to do a bit of stamping and stuff on the background piece. This one will be quite simple because obviously it is the back of the art journal, so it won't get seen all that much, but I do want to finish it off. The other thing that I realised last night that I hadn't done was I hadn't dated. Now on all my journals I try to sign and date them, so that way I know when I started it. So yesterday's date was the 6th, so I've got my little stamp thing, so I've got to, it's making sure I get it right. So I will, because I'm not daft, I will stamp it off on a piece of paper first, because that's my usual trick, is to stamp it and then realise I haven't actually got the date right. So on a scrap of card, yeah, that's right. So I want to get the date on, so let's hope this goes well, otherwise I'll be putting a label over this. So put the date there. Perfect. Brilliant. And then I want to find a pen. It'd help if I got a scrap of paper nearby, really, wouldn't it? That'll do. There we go. So I've just put the date and I've signed the front cover, and then I'll know when I actually created that one. I'll know when I started it. So that is that one now finished. So for this one, I think I will start with trying to decide where I want to put that. And I really like, sorry for the noise, I really like these wings. And I'm thinking it might be quite nice to incorporate the wings on this, if I can get them off. Stuck quite well to the carrier sheet, these. They do come off. I haven't ripped one yet, but they are reasonably well stuck down. Okay, so I think I'm going to stamp it around about there. So I need my big stamp block for that one. There we go. And I could do this in the Misty, or the whichever one it is. I've got Hampton Arts one or whatever it is, the stamp press thing. But I'm not actually that worried about getting a perfect impression because, you know, it is quite sort of mixed media looking. So it doesn't matter too much whether it stamps perfectly or not. So I think I'm going to start by stamping about there. Yeah, there you go. That's cool. I like that. Yep. Like it. So that's actually a pencil. It's a pencil with wings coming off of it, which, again, because it's an art journal, I think that's really quite apt and appropriate. So I like that. And then I've got the number stamp that I used on the front page. So I think I'm going to do the same on this one. I'm going to bring in, and I think I'm going to try and bring in some of the yellow and the coral that is on the front page, just bring a little bit, just a hint of it, through to the back page, again, so that the whole journal ties together. And there is some corally colours and a little bit of yellow within this, so it's not going to look out of place. There we go. And that'll do for that. And then, what else have we got? So the coral colour, I was having to use a normal distress ink because unfortunately I haven't got a oxide in the right colour. So I think I'll again use these little hexagony pieces because it will help to tie everything together. And this would be good if I had this in the oxide. It would be really good because it would be much more vibrant. But you know, sometimes you just got to work with what you've got, haven't you? So, and it's still there. You can see it. It does bring that sort of slightly warmer, more sort of orangey tone to the piece. I like. I love doing this sort of thing because it's hard to go wrong, because it's just layering it up, and I find that even if I'm not keen on something, if it's not quite gone the way I'd anticipated, I just keep layering, and eventually it gets to a point where I sort of like what I've created. So that's really subtle. Bring the piece up to the camera a bit more. I don't know if you're actually even sort of picking it up in the top here. Oh yeah, you can just see it there. So it is very, very subtle, but actually it immediately brings warmth into the piece, especially with the yellow that we've used for the numbers as well. It really helps to add that warmth to the piece. Okay, so if we're going to put her there, we've obviously got space down the bottom, and we could do something similar to what we did on the front page, and we could bring in some strips of the paper. So tear it away from me, and then I won't get the white edge, I'll get the words. And if I tear it towards me, get the white edge. All the little scratches on my hand, that's my cat. I was playing with my little girl cat yesterday and she got all excited and was biting me and scratching me. She's naughty. So I'm just going around the edge of this strip with a little bit of that dried marigold distress ink, and that will just take the edge off, take the whiteness away from the raw edges. And then we've got that like that. That's really pretty. I'm just going to move that up ever so slightly like that. And again, I might mount that one in black because that worked really nicely on the front cover. Okay, so what else have we got? So we've got some things like the paint tubes are really nice, and with it being an art journal, I don't know whether maybe, because I'm tempted to use the paintbrush because obviously that's what I've used on the front, but whilst I want it all to coordinate and tie in, I don't, I do want them to be their own separate sort of pieces of art. So I don't know, we'll have a look. So I've got the paint tubes. So I could have some paint tubes coming in like that, and I could pull those down a bit. I'm faffing. I like to faff, as you'll notice if you watch my channel. I can't help it. So I think a black border around that one will really help. And then I'm going to have a think. I'll be back in a short moment. So I just thought I'd show how I'm going to get my black edge on my piece. So I flipped it over so that if I draw on it, I draw on the back side, not on the front side. And all I've done is I've placed it down on paper, like that, and I've drawn around the edge just with I use these mechanical pencils from the pound shop because it gives you that nice fine line. And then all I'm going to do is just with my scissors, I'm going to cut it, but I'm going to stay just sort of, I don't know, a few centimetre or so to the outer edge of the pencil line. And then when I flip it over, you won't see the pencil line that I've drawn because that'll be on the back, and it will be a nice outline for the piece. It'll sit on like that. So I just thought I'd quickly show you, because I know I explained it yesterday, but I didn't know whether I explained it very well. So I just thought I'd show you how I'm getting that outline, because obviously I don't have a die that fits that shape. So, to get a drop shadow sort of back piece, that's how I make it. Okay, so I have now finished doing that. So that is created. I have distressed around the edge with my like clover type distress tool, and that will just sit on top like that, and it just breaks the colour a little bit and draws your eye to the focal point a little bit more, which is obviously what I want. I've also dug out, I have got spice marmalade in the distress inks, so I thought we could give that a bit of a go. If there's lots of noise, I've got my kids and that walking through because it's a really sunny day, and my craft room is the conservatory, so obviously they come through to go into the back garden. That was my younger daughter moaning that she's being forced to spend some time in the garden. It's because they're not leaving the house at the moment, so I am encouraging, not forcing, encouraging them to spend some time in the garden. Hey-ho. There we go. So just a little bit, and again it just brings that sort of orange colour through. Now that is slightly more orange than I would have chosen. If I'd have had the option, if I'd got the distress ink in the dried marigold, I would have gone for that, but unfortunately, like I say, I don't have that. And although the distress ink is really pretty in the background there, it is quite subtle, so that's why I've gone for the spiced marmalade in the oxide. I've also got this really cute little stamp. I picked up a copy of Craft Stamper magazine. I'll try and get it in the camera today. I picked it up because, how exciting, I'm in it. So I created a piece for the JMC designs. She'd got a like a project thing share in the magazine, and as the design team we all got asked if we wanted to do a piece. So this was the piece that I created, and obviously a bit of writing and stuff that I did. So I think I will actually get the piece back at some point. So when I do, I will I'll show you the actual piece when I get it back. But the rest of the design team have also done pieces that have been shown in the magazine. So this is Jan Marshall's piece, which is a really fantastic canvas, and then we've got a couple more here. So that's Dawn from Shiny Silver Treasures. That was the piece that she did. Fantastic. She's used all the papers in the background there. And then we've got a piece here by Emma Blake, which is, I love the really vibrant colours on that one. And then we've got this journal here, which is created by Denise Colin. I can't pronounce that surname. My pronunciation is shocking. I do apologise. But they've always got some really lovely projects, and they share them in the Facebook group, the JMC Facebook group. So yeah, really fantastic. So that's why I picked it up, but it came with a free stamp, so I think I will try and incorporate this somewhere in the background too. So I'm not too worried about the background getting overly busy, because like we did with yesterday's projects, we can knock it back with a bit of gesso if needs be. So I'll just pop that on there. I'm going to use the lighter blue this time. I'm going to use the Faded Jean. And again, I'm not going for perfection, just a hint of the stamp here and there. It's where you're going to see it, because to be honest, obviously the image is going to take up some space, and then we're going to have our paper strips. So that is now getting quite busy, so I am going to knock it back again with a little bit of gesso, but I am just going to make sure that it's completely dry before I do that, so that as little as possible things, you know, I move things around as little as possible. Now hopefully, because I'll use the bubble wrap technique as well as dry brushing it, hopefully I won't move it too much, but we shall see. So I'll just pause while I dry it, because you don't want to hear my heat tool. Okay, so my desk's getting crowded again already. So I've got this little quite a stiff brush, and again I've only put just a little tiny bit of the gesso on it, and as you can see, it's just moved that distress oxide there, which it's going to do, which is why I'm sort of trying to sort of stick to areas where I'm not bothered if it moves the ink slightly. It won't move it so much if I sort of stamp on top. So yesterday we did some stamping with the star. Today I think we're going to use this one, but I'm going to do it with the white paint instead, because that will help to knock everything back a little bit. So I'm just getting it off my palette, just getting lots of white paint on, and I'm just going to pop some bits of white here and there. I think that'll do for that one. And then we will go for, that's quite a cool one because it's got that flat piece there, so we'll see what that turns out like. And because this is gesso, obviously it's not opaque white, so it sort of settles back quite a bit. And I'm not bothering to go sort of bonkers in the middle there, because obviously you're not going to end up seeing that. So again, I'm going to pause and I'm just going to dry that gesso, and then we'll come back and see where we're at. Okay, so you can see that that has now dried, but in places the colour from underneath, where it's the oxide ink, is coming through. try and get my camera to focus, and it almost looks like I've stamped over the gesso instead of the other way around. And then you've got other places like here where you've got that really interesting texture going on, and where the colour of the ink has changed, where it's oxidised with the water from the gesso, so that's really cool too. So I'm going to put a few bubble wrap marks on, but to do that I'm going to use an opaque white paint. So this is going to be just that bit more opaque, and that will, you'll still will get some movement of the distress inks underneath, because that's just the nature of the beast. But I'm going to use, I've got much bigger bubble wrap this time than I used on the front cover, and I'm going to do a few with those. But yeah, you will still get a bit of movement, but hopefully this will be a little bit more opaque as well. So I'm going to start with some up there. Obviously not got enough paint on there. It's very warm in the craft room today, so I think stuff's drying before I get the opportunity to do what I want with it. That's better. That's more what I was looking for. And as you can see, if I show you the bubble wrap, you can... I'm really struggling with my camera. Anybody that's a YouTuber, what do you use to film your videos with? Because I use my phone, and I specifically bought the phone when I bought it because I was thinking of starting YouTube, trying YouTube. So I bought a phone that was supposed to have a really good camera, and it has. It's got a very good camera. It takes brilliant photos, but you've got to have the right light, and I don't know, it's just not quite as amazing as I thought it was going to be. So I'd really appreciate it if anybody out there is YouTubing, if you tell me what it is that you film on, and if it's something that you've got recently, what make and model is it? Because I think it's something that at some point in the near future I would like to look at, maybe sourcing a camera that's specifically for my YouTube. This is really cool because I can look in the screen while I'm doing it and sort of see what it is I'm doing to some extent, as long as I remember to do it. But yeah, not quite as awesome as I thought it was going to be, but hey ho. So there we go. So we've got lots of white on there now, and that is just helping to push things into the background a little bit. I have to tap the camera to get it to focus, and that makes it wobble, so I do apologise. There you go. So you can see that a lot of that stamping that we've done is now receding into the background a little bit. And obviously you could have done that with stencils. If you've got stamps that are like that, you could do it with stamps, foam stamps. They're really good for this sort of thing. I just was using what I'd got to hand, and just what I fancied, picked up and thought, oh, I'll use that. So there we go. So I do need to dry that again because it is quite thick in places, the paint, but actually I quite like that because it then gives you a bit of texture as well as the colour and the patination. So I will just give that a quick dry. Okay, so that's all dry, and I've glued my focal image to my black background. And I've got my two strips here that I do think I want down the bottom. I think I might incorporate some of the silver in a similar way that I did to the front, but rather than cutting another one so that I can have the same, I'll just pick something else. And I thought I could either go for that one, which has got the spots, because obviously we've got the dots from the bubble wrap, or I've got this one, which has got like the flowers, which obviously the cookie cutters were the flowers, but I think I like the spotty one the best, so I'm going to pull that one out. So I think we will incorporate this, see if I can get some of the bits out of it. Probably should have done that off camera really, shouldn't I? I might have to get the poker tool on a few more of those bits, but yeah, that'll go across the middle there, somewhere like that. Image around about there, and then I thought just up here it might be nice to have, I've got these two stamps that say create art, and they came from that same stamp set, and I just thought, as it's an art journal, it might be quite cool to have that there. However, I think if I stamp it directly on, if I mess it up, I've messed up the background piece and I'll have to try and work around it, and B, I don't think it'll stand out because it's quite a busy background. So I've just found this scrap of like a vellum type paper, so you can still slightly see through it, but I think it'll be enough to create a barrier so that you concentrate on the wording and not what's behind. So I think to start with, I will stamp that so that we've got some idea of sizing for that. So I don't want it to be too perfect, in keeping with the rest of the background. Looking for the stamp block that I can't see. I tell you, my desk just gets messier and messier as the craft goes on. I'll fit on this stamp block down here. Yeah. So I'll start with that one. And because it's a vellum-y type paper, I'm going to use a StazOn because I think that's got more chance of drying properly on the paper. So I've just got a jet black StazOn ink. And I'm just going to, love the smell of StazOn. I like that. That is super cool. Just give that a wipe off. That's cool. It's hardly left a mark on my stamp. And then just wipe the block dry if I get the art. And more or less line it up, but like I said, I'm not bothered if it's perfect because it'll be in keeping with what we've got. There, I really like that. That's so beautiful. Now I've pushed quite hard down on the art and it has sort of distorted it quite slightly, but because of the style of the font, I don't think it matters too much, so I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. So the idea is that that will sit there. So I think what I'll do is I'll rip it out because I think again it will just be in keeping with what we've already got on the page. So I'll just try and rip it out, making sure I don't actually rip any of the writing. Just take that corner off slightly. There. I like that. So, yeah, if I can pick it up. So that'll sit sort of there. So straight away I can see that obviously it's starting to encroach upon the pencil bit, which I don't mind too much, but I am going to minimise that by just taking some more off of the bottom here, because there's room to do it, so why not? If I can get in there. So I'm using this finger to sort of control where the rip goes so that I don't accidentally rip into the writing, because I don't want to do that. There we go. And obviously I've just got to be mindful of the fact that I've got the holes there. Now that's okay if the holes are sitting on the bit where there's no writing, because I can just repunch them and that'll be fine. So I think I'm going to have it like that, and then the focal elements. So I'm just going to go for it. Just go for it, Sarah. It's only an art journal. Nobody will ever look at it other than you guys, and you guys don't mind. You're all really nice. You all say nice, encouraging things, so that's cool. So I'm going to just put some of this on. Like that, and I'm going to stick that like that and just make sure that that's pressed down. Don't know if it's, oh no, it's just because there's texture up there, I think. Now I'm not going to punch that until this has dried a bit more, because otherwise I'm in danger of just moving the paper. I think what I'm then going to do is stick these bits down the bottom, and decide whether I want to stamp anything over these, because again it can just help to incorporate the paper into the whole piece and make it sort of blend and look a bit more cohesive as a piece. So where's my focal element, just so that we can, how do I want to, yeah, I like it like that, I think. So I like the fact that you've just got the wings sticking out from above her there, and that's really cute. Lovely. And then I'm going to pop this one along the bottom there. So again, it's just a case of, I keep going off screen. It's because I lean, because I've got a bad back. I tend to lean over to my left side because it takes some of the pressure off my back. But I forget that in doing that, I take myself off view. So I do apologise. There we go. So I've got those on there. Now, I need to just trim the edges off of those. And I did put a new blade on my knife yesterday because I was driving myself crackers with it, but I've already managed to chip the tip off of it, but it's still sharp, so that's okay. See, how much easier was that than yesterday? Fantastic. Just take the edges off there. Lovely. Oh yeah, that looks cool. And then I've got this strip. Now, it has still got some of the holes in it, and I'm desperately looking around me for my pokey tool so I can poke that out. And I can't see it anywhere. Anybody see it? It's a wooden handle bradle. You're not all shouting at once, so... Okay, I might have to pause while I go and find it. Yeah, I'm going to have to pause. Back in a sec. I found it. It was in my caddy, right in front of my eyes, where it's supposed to be the whole time. Yeah, no. To save you the boredom, I quickly poked all the pieces out of the silver strip whilst I was off camera. So again, I'm just going to run some wet glue all down the back of it. It dries clear, so I'm not overly bothered if it sort of squidges through a little bit. And I'm just going to put that between the two strips to break it up, and that echoes what we did on the front of the piece, on the front cover. So again, I'm just going to flip that over, take my sharp craft knife and just take the edge off, and take some of the blue paint off as well. Oops, I have to be touching that up now, honestly. I'm watching what I'm doing. Those two gone. Yep, I have taken just a little bit of the blue off, but that's fine, I can touch that up. Okay, so that's that. So now it's a case of, do I want to, at this point, put anything over any of this so that it feels a bit more part of the background, part of the whole piece, rather than just sort of, you know, stuck on the top. I am just going to repunch the holes where the vellum is. There you go, that's better. So I've got nice clear holes now. So I might just put, with the small bubble wrap, on the paint, I might just put a little bit of, God, it's already gone hard. It's a good job it was a cheap rubbish brush from the pound shop. I've been annoyed. I really ought to keep a tub of water, but I've got a tendency to knock it over, so I've started putting it on a different side, but then I forget that I then actually do need to put the brush in it. Go over and do it, but never mind. Okay, there we go. So that'll do. And then I'm still tempted to bring in that that paintbrush image, mostly because I just love it. It's one of my favourite images. and I could just put it along the bottom there. So I think what I'll do is I'll dry the paint first so I don't ruin my stamp, and then we'll have a look. So I think what I'll do is, because I've got the black in the Create Art, and obviously I've got the black around the focal image, I think I'm actually going to use that Stays On to do this paintbrush just down the bottom there. And then you've got that sort of three bits of black. And again, this might not give a perfect stamp because obviously there's all different layers that it's trying to stamp over, but that's okay. Yeah, so you've not picked up the bit that I really wanted to pick up, which was the paintbrush down the bottom there. And this is why if I'd have done it on my misty thing, on my stamp positioner thing, it would have been better. But hey ho, that's okay. I can live with that. If it really bothers me, I can go in a bit with a pen or a pencil and just sketch in the rest of that paintbrush. And then I'll put that there, and it just pulls all three of the bits of black into the piece. So I'm going to then use a little bit of the white glue. It always looks like I'm using loads, but because it's a fine tip, it actually isn't dispensing that much in the way of the glue. So there we go, and just give that a really good press down. Excuse me, I need a drink. Okay, and I might pop something heavy on that in a second just to help that lie flat. So all I'm doing here is just with a very fine tipped pen, just sketching in a little bit of that detail that we lost in the stamping of the paintbrush. Some of it I'm just doing as dots and lines, just to keep that sort of sketchy look to it, but at the same time it's clear that it's a paintbrush. That's better, I'm happier with that. Okay, so other than making sure that that sits down, I think the last thing that I want to do is just with a little bit of faded jeans, just in the original Distress ink, I'm just going to go around the edge of the piece, and then I've just got to put the paper on the back, and then it's pretty much done. There we go. So I'll pause because you don't want to see me putting a piece of paper on the back of the board, but then I'll come back and I'll show you it, and we'll put the book rings in and we will be ready to start. Okay, so that's now done. I've done the back and I've just inked around the edges, and I've put the homemade reinforcer things on there. And the last thing that I just thought about doing was I didn't bring any of the Sparks paint through, which I'd done on the front cover. So what I've decided to do is I've just tested it and it works. I've got the one of the stamps. This is the script stamp, and I'm just painting a little bit of this acrylic paint on, and then stamping as if it was an ink, and it just leaves a little bit of the sparkly text, which I really like. Now obviously, so as not to ruin the stamp, as soon as I have done this, I will have to take it into the kitchen and give it a really good clean. I've got a gentle scrubbing brush that I use to get acrylic stamp paint off of stamps and things, but this ink stamps perfectly well, this paint, sorry. So there, that's it, just to bring a little bit of that Sparks paint through and onto the back page. So that's now both pages of the journal complete, so they will go back to back with the book rings attached. like that. And then obviously if it gets bigger I can just put bigger book rings on. So that's the back and that's the front, and then we've got the 2 internal pages, and obviously each piece will go in there. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me and creating along with me while we created the back page for the journal. We will now be starting to do each page. So like I say, if you've got any ideas for a word that I can use as a prompt for the first page of the A to Z Art Journal 2020, then please do leave it in the description box below. For the first one, obviously we're going with the letter A, so any words that you can think of starting with the letter A, feel free to leave them in the description box below, and I will pop them in with all the words that are suggested, and we will pick one to use as the inspiration for the first piece. So I hope that you're going to join along and create with me. Don't forget to use the hashtag A to Z Art Journal 2020. You can use that on Instagram or on YouTube, and just make sure that you come back and tell me that you've done so, and then I will be sure to go on over and check it out. So thanks so much for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Don't forget, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, you can do so by clicking on the subscribe button, and if you hit the bell icon, you'll get a notification each time I upload a new video. Thanks for spending some time with me today, and I hope to see you all again very, very soon in the next crafty video. Bye for now.